In the light of the recent Vince McMahon allegations, Torrie Wilson has come out and said that bikini matches in WWE were mortifying and reveals that she was fighting back tears at one event. Welcome back to Fog Wrestling, and we're going to go into this. And she's talking about an interview with Chris Van Fleet and talking about bikini matches being in WWE. So just to quote the first bit, um, they were all mortifying. People don't realise I went out there and owned it the best I could and pushed through the fear, but it was mortifying. There were times when I remember specifically a house show that I was in this bikini showdown with Dawn Marie and Sable and someone else. I was standing in the corner watching one of the girls dance in the middle and literally fighting back tears. Like, I can't believe I'm doing this right now. Because it got to like a raunchy point and I'm like, I don't want to be part of this. But that was also my job. Right. So Chris Van Fleet's asked a question at this, but I mean, what I'm going to say right now, you could just say no, right? See this gimmick that you can't say no? You don't have, you're not forced to. Before people go, yeah, but she is forced to because then she would have to leave the company. Well then, if you don't want to do something and it's bringing you to tears, then you just leave. You take the ramifications of the money aspect. You leave. You do not do it. I am sick of anyone in wrestling and anyone in general saying that they were forced. You've always got a choice. All right, you've always got a choice. You might make the wrong one, you might make the right one, but you've always got your own choice. I'm not buying this, and I think this is just the paint fence in a bad and even worse light. So, Chris Van Fleet has said, with all this stuff you were doing, did you feel that you could say no? She said, no. It was twice I could remember that I said no. First of all, I'm a major people pleaser. Say no to people is really hard. Even if it's someone you know. I'm recovering from that. There was one time I had a thing with Sable where Vince McMahon wanted me to come out with paint on my boobs like she did, and I was like, hard no, I can't do that. I mean, it ended up being nearly nothing anyway. And another time when I did Playboy, Vince wanted me to do a pay per view. Also, the video, that was one very hardcore pressed, and it was really hard for me to say no, but I absolutely didn't want that. So she says, she says, do you feel like you could say no? And then she says, no. And then answers two examples where she said no, then didn't have to do the things. I mean, she's contradicted herself here in the exact same sentence because she's like, he's asked, do you feel like you could ever say no? She's like, no. And it gives two examples where she said no and didn't have to do it. Honestly, man. Then there's a question here. Was it difficult to agree to pose for Playboy? She says that part was no, because I thought it's photos. I know it's going to look good in its Playboy, to be honest. This is going to sound real dumb, but I hadn't really thought about the fact that I was kind of going to be nude because Playboy was such a popular magazine. I was like, this is awesome, right? Playboy parties and all that. It literally wasn't until I was landing on the plane to go to the shoot, I was like, oh shit, there's going to be other people in the room, not just me and the photographer. It was kind of a close set. So there was more than like, what, maybe six people. And it always had a row, but in between shots, it was so weird. End of quote. I mean, what are people saying in the comments? They're gonna, yeah, it's just people talking about the Attitude Era, how it was acceptable in the 90s. I mean, this is like early 2000s, it's not the 90s, but you know, it's just, yeah, catanomics. But she said she couldn't say no, right? I mean, honestly, it's ridiculous for her to say that she couldn't say no, and then literally in the same paragraph says no. I mean, I've liked Tori Wilson's work in WWE for what she did, but honestly, coming up with stuff like this, it just completely undermines everything you've stood for. Like, how can she say she couldn't say no, and then give two examples where she said no? To me, that's fucking that just undermines everything you've just said.